Good morning and welcome to the VIP seat. Today is November 28th. Happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners. Top stories today in private aviation include how paracorporate flight attendants are suing for overtime and how AI and lasers may be used to keep you out of DC airspace soon. Our hosts today include yours truly, Jessie Naor, and our co-host today, Sierra Lund. Sierra, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So excited. All right, folks, sit back, buckle up, and let's take off. So, once again, the commercial pilot retirement age is coming up now that all the political winds have shifted, so shall we say, in Congress and the House. Senator Marsha Blackburn and her colleagues wrote a letter supporting the argument that experienced pilots have fewer accidents than junior pilots. So we know earlier this year this was a big debate that kind of got squashed at the time to move the retirement age up. But Sierra, what do you think? Should we be changing it? Should we leave it alone?
Let them work. Let them work. I love it. I love it. It's gonna happen one of these years that they bring it up, because I don't remember a time where they haven't brought it up. So I feel like it's gonna happen eventually. And if you can pass a medical, you can pass a medical.
Yeah, that's my whole point. That's why we have the medical system. If you're not capable, that should disqualify you from being a commercial pilot. I can't remember where this came from, but ICAO has changed their directive. Argentina just announced they're removing limits altogether. That was just announced this week as well. So, yeah, if someone can fly, it's so subjective. I think this is one of the only places in the world that we discriminate based on age, that it's like allowed to discriminate based on age. And I don't know why we can't just let them fly airplanes.
I think let them work. I'm a general aviation pilot for fun. And so a lot of the people I fly with are retired airline pilots, and they're healthier than some of the 20-year-olds that I fly with. So I don't really see a reason why they couldn't. And I know that if they could still work, they probably would.
Yeah.
And then you look at all of the incidents that commercial aviation's had. Even the past year, it's been some pretty bad press. It's not all on the pilots, but the staff is pretty junior from what I hear at the airlines. And it's never comforting. So I say let them work.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many pros and cons. I think when you separate to like business aviation versus commercial flying, one of the things I've always said is, if there's a mandatory retirement age of 65, great, come fly in business aviation because we don't care. You can fly for as long as you want to here. So in some ways, it could harm us if the airlines are allowed to fly, older. But at the same time, I feel like people should just be able to work if they want to work, and I don't think that's a good excuse to kind of keep them from the industry.
We would definitely like to steal all of the awesome airline pilots after they're done, and maybe they want to take a job just a little bit later. But I say let them work until I'm flying fully private. Let them work. I want them up there.
Yeah, well, and we'll see. The House of Representatives, let's see, this was in July of 2023, the US House voted to increase the age to 67, but then in February 9th of this year, the Commerce Committee rejected only by one vote, 14-13 to reject it. So I have a feeling now that the winds have shifted toward the Republican Party, this might actually be happening next year. I feel like the last time this kind of debate was happening, ALPA was very heavily engaged in blocking it, which also you have to question because, all right, the union should be representing older pilots too. Why are they blocking their opportunities to work? It's kind of doesn't really fit.
Totally. I think it's cyclical too. It's whatever the airlines need at the moment. Right now, they obviously need some more experience. So maybe it's a good time to up it. And I'm sure when they up it, we'll hear a couple years from now, we'll be talking about them wanting to lower it again. It is what it is. It is funny to see such young flight crews now. I'm always amazed just walking through Hartsfield, seeing such young captains. It's wild.
Yeah.
Neither good
Well, too, I feel like the more you age, the younger everybody looks too. Like I look at college students, I'm like, you look like a child.
No, I still feel like I'm that age, and then I talk to someone that is, and I'm like, I guess I'm not anymore. That's This is that's right.
But it's the same with, but yeah, the pilots. I'm like, okay, well, I'm now twice the age of some of these flight crew members, and that's kind of wild.
Yeah, it's tough to swallow for me, at least.
But let them work. Let them work as long as they want to. If they could pass the medical, I'm behind it. Even if maybe it means we lose the retirees in private aviation, I think it'll settle out at some point.
Totally.
All right. Well, in our next story, this one's pretty fun. I used to be in the DC area, so I know DC airspace pretty well and how intense it can be. But the system that prevents people from flying into that special flight rules area is being upgraded. It's a company called Kaleidoscope, but they have a new AI powered camera system, and it includes lasers that actually shine into someone's cockpit when they violated the airspace to give them a visual warning before the fighter jets come out to escort them out of the
Yeah,
airspace. But this is actually pretty cool tech, and I didn't realize the camera system they're currently using is like 20 years old. It's installed right after 9/11.
which is wild to me. I would have guessed they would have upgraded it at some point, but I guess now is the time.
Yeah, 100 million dollars to
Right.
put this thing in.
That's right. No, I love it. I think I'm always so interested to see AI actually being used in aviation. I feel like there's so many conversations around non-piloted aircraft or only one pilot having to be in the aircraft for commercial travel. And I just don't really, and this is me, I'm in sales. I'm not an engineer, so take this for what you will. But I think that AI fits so well into aviation and so well into defense. I don't think that means there's not pilots anymore. I just don't.
Mhm.
I don't think public opinion or comfort is really going to get there. But there's a lot of new technology that I'm super excited about, like this, that's assisting pilots and, defending DC airspace is not an easy task. I bet those alarm bells go off for those
All the
fighters
time.
all the time. So if there's ever a technology that can kind of make their jobs easier and safer, I'm all about it. And I think it's really cool to see real AI technology be used in the right way.
Yeah, and I look at it the same way too. Like everyone's like, "Oh, AI is coming for your jobs," but I'm a writer and a speaker, and I have been concerned about the writing thing. Like, okay, is this going to eventually be able to produce what I produce in the same way? But I don't think that we're there yet. And I look at it just like in this situation, it's a tool to enhance what you already do. Being able to identify, is it a bird or a plane? An AI system can do that much better than the human eyes. Like that makes total sense. That's a great application of this technology.
No, I love it. And like you said, there's so many technologies, and people that know me are going to roll their eyes, but I'm so excited about some of these technologies. Like, I don't know if you've heard of Skyrise.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh, I can't shut up about them because I think that is where the future of AI should go in aviation. It's assisting pilots, it's making things safer for us, it's assisting us in what AI can definitely do better than the human, but there's still a
Mhm.
human element to it, especially when you're talking about defending our country or being in a fighter jet. I mean, there's an ethical issue there too. So we can't ever see just a robot taking over that job.
Well, and for our listeners who may not be familiar, so Skyrise, they're modifying now. I can't remember which platform it is. Which helicopter?
6.
Okay, yeah. So they're modifying that to basically make flying super easy, I guess, in some ways. The computer itself is really controlling the flight. You still have an engagement with it, but it's not like as difficult as going to, Bell 407 school learning everything about that cockpit.
Totally. It's basically making everything redundant. And I'm going to mess this up because I don't work for them. I just really, really like their product. But in layman's terms, I think it's really making that fly by wire. And when it's fly by wire, it's super redundant. And then when it is an emergency situation, the pilot can really focus. I mean, when you're just flying, and I got to fly the sim at Oshkosh, which was so awesome. But when you're flying, you still have full control, just as if you would flying anything else you would fly as a general aviation pilot. But when it comes to that emergency situation, the AI can really kick in and put safety parameters so that you can really focus on navigating and communicating. And the technology really like does the aviating for you in that order. So it's really cool. I actually experienced an engine failure on takeoff when I was my first solo cross country as a student pilot. I was 300 feet, landed on a golf course. So that was a very
Thanks.
interesting experience. But I think that's what makes me really passionate about what they're doing, is because, I was blessed with really great instructors. I was also blessed with the ability to not freak out in an emergency. And you never really know how you're going to react until you get there.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a personality trait. And I know some emergency situations, if you're taking on so much at one time and you really only have a couple of seconds to make a decision, that's life or death. So
Yeah.
AI can come in and really facilitate making those situations easier for pilots. I think we're going to see uh, a real shift in accidents and how people handle them.
Yeah.
And
Well, talk about being thrown into the fire on your first solo.
that was an interesting cross. Is the shortest cross country of my life. That's what it.
Oh, gosh. I hope they give you an automatic pass for that one. Like, okay,
Yeah,
you're good.
that's
You've been through that. You got the thing down without injuring anyone. So
Yeah, my check ride, they did not have me do a simulated engine out, actually. They were like, you're good.
that's kind of
You're
them.
good.
That's kind. Like you're good. You figured that one out.
A little bit off topic, but all of this to say, I'm really excited about AI in the right way. I don't think that pilots should lose their jobs to robots, but I think we can definitely assist pilots in being safer. And obviously, God bless those guys that defend DC airspace. That's a stressful job. So anything to
Oh,
take
yeah.
take some of the stress off of them, definitely great.
Yeah. Yeah. Keeping everybody inside the envelope. I think that's the goal. And we've even though this is AI, we've had this evolution over time in aviation. Like it doesn't make sense to do everything if we have a better technology to do it for us in the first place. So enhancing and not stealing jobs.
Totally.
Well, speaking of losing jobs, this one's an interesting one. And just a reminder for any of the business owners and people managing payroll out there. There's a couple flight attendants that were corporate flight attendants for Arthur Blank, who was the co-founder of Home Depot. His family office is being sued by a couple flight attendants regarding some overtime pay issues. In the claim, it states that they were improperly classified as exempt from overtime pay, and they were working as much as 90 hours per week versus your standard 40. And that on their days off, they were bombarded by calls and texts about travel and planning from the family office. Now, what's really interesting about this suit, I think obviously, well, we'll have to see if the suit pays out. First of all, this is just accusations. We don't really know what happened. But there was another piece of the suit in which they claimed that the flight attendants had to there was another flight attendant in the department that had a relationship with the aviation manager, and we have to wonder how much of this frustration came from that personal relationship versus the job they were doing. But man, I would hate to be reading this if I was that flight department.
Yeah, this is a tough one. First of all, God bless our flight attendants. I don't think they get enough credit. And as far as the workload that's put on them, I think obviously pilots have rest periods and rest time that's mandatory. Flight attendants don't. There's not really those perimeters to protect them, especially in corporate aviation. I mean, I know they work their asses off on the commercial side too, but corporate aviation, there's no real parameters to protect our flight attendants. So in that regard, I feel for them. I think some of this might be some flight department drama.
Yeah,
There's a whole nother side of the conversation. Maybe the flight attendants would have been working a little bit less had they had the help of the additional flight attendant on staff. But
that was
she seems to
yeah.
be a little busy. So
That was one of the claims, is that basically, the third wasn't pulling her weight, so they had to do all this extra work because she had this relationship. But gosh, it's full of drama, and who knows what the truth of the situation. But I mean, you raise a good point. My mom was a flight attendant for it's Piedmont back in the day, then U.S. Air. the golden age of airline flying, I think. But, she always told me the same thing. It's like a lot of people look at us like we're just, drink servers, but, we serve a safety function, and a lot of people don't understand that.
Well, and I mean, to deal with the general public for that long, I would need some rest. I would need some
Yeah.
mandatory rest for sure.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, corporate aviation poses its own set of exhausting issues, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah.
And just the uncertainty of your schedule, I think. At some point, it's not my battle, but I hope that someone starts advocating for mandatory time off for flight attendants. But it'll be interesting to hear how this lawsuit pans out, though, because I feel like there's two sides to every story. So we'll see
Oh, yes.
whose side really comes out on top.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm looking at this, I imagine there's probably just a settlement to make this go away to avoid the public drama, especially, of a high profile person. But
Probably.
yeah, I don't know, but you need to be taking a look at, your labor practices. These were really high paid employees. I think, one of them was $126,000 per year. And a lot of HR people go, oh, okay, well, they're making that much, so they're an exempt employee. But, my former HR guy would caution me, you need to be careful with those designations. And when you get in these situations where the family office says, oh, they need lobster. So you have to go out to Whole Foods at 4 o'clock in the morning and get it. Like that could all be hours worked. So
Yeah,
it's fine until it's not.
totally. Well, and I think, culture wise too, you want to make sure that your flight attendants are working their fair share, but also happy and want to stay, because it's a lot more to onboard a new flight attendant and them to learn the practices, learn the client, learn what they like, and assimilate with their group than to just keep your flight attendants happy.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe the in office relationship should be very low key. No one should know about that.
Yeah, limited, low key, maybe none would be great.
Or maybe none. I mean, things happen, but still, like this is what lawsuits are made of.
Totally, totally.
All right. So Boeing, has had many issues over the last few years. It's trying to raise cash and focus on more of its core businesses, which means Jeppesen and ForeFlight are being spun off from the mothership. But what is crazy to me is that the two of them may be worth up to $8 billion, which is wild.
It's wild what they paid for flight back
Yeah.
in 2019. It's a great investment by Boeing. Maybe they maybe they weren't focused on the right things, but they were the past couple of years, but they were really good at their investments. Whoever is running that department doing a great job.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame because, Jeppesen and ForeFlight, it's saying that they were representing the highest margins of all the Boeing global service entities, 30% margins. You would think that if you're struggling in other areas, you would hang on to your business units that are producing some good cash for you, but maybe they just need to raise the money for other projects or something internally that's going on. But yeah, dang. Let's see. ForeFlight estimated to be worth 1 billion, Jeppesen worth 7 billion. Software is the game right now to play.
Well, I mean, I don't know a pilot that doesn't use Garmin or ForeFlight every day. So it's kind of something that we rely on now. It's almost a necessity when you go up in the air now. So whoever buys that is gonna do great. They won't have any
Yeah.
problem. They're not going anywhere.
Well, was so dominant too. I mean, you look at, I think ForeFlight has kind of done to aviation what like the Microsoft Office suite did in the business world. Like, who doesn't use it? Like, it's such a necessity. And man, it is so magical. I mean, you just plug, and it just all this. I'm not a pilot, so but I've seen like my husband use it, who's a helicopter pilot, and it's amazing. What these systems do these days.
I'm so glad that I got my license after ForeFlight and Garmin were a thing, because prior to when, back when they had to use VORs and all of that
Uh-huh.
craziness, you have to learn it for private pilot. But if you asked me to do one now, I'd fail that test for sure. So
Oh my gosh.
definitely relying on it now.
So I went to air traffic control school and we had to do like ground school. So I still remember how to, run all those numbers and everything. But no, it was not fun. The old flight calculators and
I'm happy with my little iPad. Put it up on the airplane, do my weight and balance, and go about my day. So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's not going anywhere. I'm surprised that they're selling, to be honest. I mean, I'm glad they're focused on what they need to be focused on, though, and I think
Yeah.
as long as they still have military contracts, they'll be fine. So
Yeah.
they'll be fine.
They've had so many struggles. They're getting rid of a lot. I mean, we talked a couple weeks ago on the show about how they were probably moving away from their space business, now moving away from this. It's like they're trying to get really back to that core of being, excellent at engineering and manufacturing, which we all think that they really need to do.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been in such a long time. I mean, my whole lifetime, they haven't been. So I think
Yeah.
it's good because Airbus is taking over that space, and I would like it
Mhm.
to be an American company that does it.
Yeah, no, we need to have a strong aerospace manufacturing industry in
Yeah,
this country, and
absolutely.
unfortunately, because all of our eggs were in the Boeing basket for large aircraft, at least we need to get them back in shape, hopefully. So,
Yeah, totally.
but we still have a very strong business aviation manufacturing sector, which is awesome.
Yes.
Embraer is making aircraft in the United States. We got Cessna, Textron, so that's good stuff.
No, I'm glad that the U.S. is dominating that space because I'm
Yeah.
partial to our industry, so I try not to pay attention too much of what happens in the commercial space.
No, it's good for the whole economy. Like we have this conversation a lot in private aviation. We get all the negatives for, it being luxury and expensive and all that stuff, but when you look at the ancillary jobs it creates, aerospace engineering jobs, manufacturing, design, parts components. I mean, these are really good jobs that produce a lot for the economy, and people often don't like to look at that positive side of it when they're complaining about our emissions and other things.
I could go on a rant about that, but
I know. That could be in a whole episode in
well,
itself.
you don't want me to start going off on that. But yes, no, I totally agree with you. And they're high-paying jobs. They're great, and honestly, I'm partial. I'm an aircraft broker, so I get to talk to my clients and really see how they're utilizing their aircraft. And it's not all luxury. I mean, it's
Mhm,
really a necessity for some of these people, and it allows them to not only produce more jobs in our industry, but produce more jobs in the entire economy. And I do think that that goes unnoticed.
mhm.
There's not too much good press about what this tool allows them to do. And also, they deserve to fly private with their family. So,
Right. I mean, they may only get, an hour a day to see them because they're working the way their schedules work. Like, let them
really,
have some small luxuries.
totally. Well, I something I love working with first time buyers too, and this is totally off topic, but I love working with first time buyers because you see how hard people work as an entrepreneur myself. I mean, it's no small feat to be able to buy a $10 million airplane, whether it be for your business or for your family. And so I love seeing what they've built. And I think
Hmm.
it is something that I really value that's not my commission check, but something that's almost more valuable than that is being able to
Hmm.
see all of the jobs that they've produced outside of our industry and be able to pick their brain about how they did that. And these aren't just trust fund kids that are flying to Cabo on the weekends. These are hardworking people that produce a lot for the economy. And then obviously I love to see a new airplane buyer because that means our industry is growing too. So all good things. And when Boeing's getting bad press on the commercial side, maybe that pushes some more people to start chartering, which pushes more people to start buying. So all good
True.
things.
Yeah, we sometimes we get the leftovers of the commercial industry, but we'll take them.
I love it. Give us
If it
all
doesn't work for
the
you, please come on over. But no, you're right. I think it's often, we always look at it's the Kim Kardashians and the Diddy's and all these other people that are flying private. A lot of our customers, you would never even know their names. We would never, they're plumbing companies, flooring companies, the blue collar industries that fuel our economy. These are the people building it. And they made a little bit of money and it's a much more efficient way for them to travel. So they're going to do it.
Totally. I had one of my first clients. He is so awesome, and he was really just a mechanic at first and built this whole business. And I got to go tour his machine shop, and I mean, it was incredible what they were building, and you could see how passionate he was about it. He never got to the point where he could buy an airplane until he sold his company, but he still got to run us through the facility, and he's so passionate about it. And I was like, you deserve to fly private. You deserve to have your PC-12 or your citation and take it easy with your family. So it's pretty cool to see the behind the scenes and how it can be used as a tool for sure.
Yeah, we get to see the end of the American dream, or the peak of the American dream form, which is really cool. Well, speaking of America and America's holidays, it is time for Thanksgiving travel. Which is always a nightmare in our industry. But actually, it sounds like so Tuesday this week was relatively quiet. The FAA administrator, Michael Whitaker, he'd come out saying, hey, we have labor shortages in air traffic control. We've got labor shortages at TSA potentially. So be prepared that you might run into some problems. But I mean, thus far, I'm hearing crickets so far, nothing too crazy. I mean, have you heard of any big delays or anything?
You would think that we would. I feel like every year it's like a panic. The first the few days before Thanksgiving, but it's been all good. I saw on Instagram. I'm from Atlanta, so I fly out of Hartsfield all the time, and the TSA line was literally out the door down the sidewalk. So if you're flying out of Hartsfield, that's probably not the greatest. Get there 5 hours early.
Yeah.
But other than that, really smooth sailing, knock on wood.
Yeah, hopefully it stays that way. So Sunday is supposed to be the busiest day. That's when everybody goes home after, the weekend and Black Friday shopping. So we'll see how Sunday goes, but at least so far, hopefully all right. Let's keep it that way. And hopefully charter is busy. We're hoping for good numbers this season, so we'll see how that goes.
If it's a shit show on the commercial side, just hop on over to the private side.
Come on over, give us a call. We got capacity.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, so many operators really make their numbers, from this time to, right past I would say like January 3rd. This is prime season. So I'm really curious to see what numbers we end up at the end of this year.
Yeah.
Given how charter's just been kind of slowing down the last couple of years.
Yeah, hopefully things are on the rise again.
Yeah.
But
I think so. Like, I was at Corporate Jet Investor a couple weeks ago. People are very optimistic, given the changes in the political scene. The economy has been significantly improving, over the last couple of years based on where we were. So with any luck, there'll be more people entering private aviation and flying private aviation and keeping you busy.
That's right. I hope so. No, I really like to focus on the optimism from US companies, which is really cool. Obviously, I want global companies to do well, but the focus on US companies, hopefully there's a lot of new buyers and first-time charter charter clients, which would be awesome. Just building up the entrepreneurs in the US. So hopefully that happens and they're not empty promises, but
Yeah. Well, our tides are really contingent on, the business world. You can look at private aviation compared to the markets, and we go up and down as they go up and down, and as entrepreneurs are building businesses and getting purchased, like that's when they're moving to private aviation. So we need the M&A and the boost to the businesses so that we can be successful, because the two are closely tied together.
Absolutely.
Nice. All right. Well, with that, we're going to wrap up the pod today. Thank you for joining us. The VIP seat is the fastest way to get your news in private aviation. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We also have a weekly digest email that goes out. It's each story that we cover in 3 sentences or less. So if you don't have time to listen to a show, you can just quickly get your information that way. But comments and suggestions on what we should cover next are always welcome. And we'll see you next time on the VIP seat.